The night my engagement party collapsed began with a sentence I still hear in my head. Rebecca Lawson. 2 men said my name like they were confirming something already written down, which, as it turned out, they were. The rooftop smelled faintly of champagne and grilled salmon. Someone had just started laughing behind me when Oliver squeezed my hand. "You ready?" he murmured. I nodded, though my stomach had started doing that nervous flip it always does before a speech. Honestly, I thought the hardest part of the night would be standing up in front of everyone and trying not to forget what I wanted to say. You know that feeling when a room full of people is suddenly waiting for you to talk and your mind goes completely blank? That's exactly where I was. My parents were seated near the front table, smiling in that careful way people do at family celebrations. My brother Derek leaned against the bar with a drink in his hand, looking mildly bored the way older brothers often do when attention shifts to someone else. I lifted my glass. That's when the elevator doors opened. 2 men stepped out. They were wearing dark suits, the kind you see on attorneys or bankers. They didn't pause to look around like guests usually do. They walked straight toward me. Conversation softened as they passed through the crowd. One of them carried a thick leather folder under his arm. The taller man stopped in front of me. "Rebecca Lawson," he asked again. His voice was calm, professional, the tone of someone who had practiced this moment before arriving. "Yes," I said. He opened the folder and slid several documents onto the table beside my glass. "My name is Calvin Rhodes," he said. "I represent a private investment group based in Dallas. We've been attempting to reach you regarding a loan issued under your name. The outstanding balance is $538,000. For a moment, I honestly thought there had been some kind of mistake. Then I saw the papers. My name, my old address, and a signature at the bottom that looked exactly like mine. People around us began whispering. Before I could respond, Derek straightened from the bar and pointed directly at me. "You've got the right person," he said. "My name is Rebecca Lawson. I am 34 years old." For a moment, no one moved. The music had stopped somewhere behind us. All I could hear was the low electric buzz of the patio heaters and the soft clink of someone setting down a glass. Calvin Rhodes slid the documents across the cocktail table. "Loan agreement issued 8 months ago," he said evenly. "Principal amount $538,000. I looked down at the page. My name printed across the top. Rebecca Lawson, my old address from years ago, and the signature at the bottom. God, it looked exactly like mine. "I've never taken a loan from your company," I said quietly. Rhodes didn't react. "Our records indicate several notices were sent to the address on file," he replied. "That address isn't mine anymore." Behind me, Derek let out a small laugh, the kind he used when he thought I was being overly dramatic. "Rebecca," he said, his voice calm in that irritating way older brothers sometimes use. "Maybe you're forgetting something. I don't forget $500,000. People around us shifted uneasily. A chair scraped lightly against the floor. Oliver stepped closer beside me. "Let's slow down," he said to Rhodes. "You might be dealing with the wrong person." Rhodes opened the folder again. "We're not here to accuse anyone," he said. "We're here to resolve an outstanding debt." I tapped the signature on the page. "This doesn't prove I signed it." Rhodes nodded slightly. "It proves someone did." Derek crossed his arms. "You should just settle it," he said. "Pay them and move on." I turned toward him. "You think this is my debt?" His expression didn't change. "It's your name on the paperwork." The air around the table felt heavier. I looked back at Rhodes. "You'll have an answer in 3 days," I said. He studied me for a moment. Then he nodded once. "3 days," he said. The 2 men left as quietly as they'd arrived. The elevator doors shut. The music never came back. People started pretending to talk again. Quiet voices, forks scraping plates. The smell of spilled champagne hung in the air. Derek walked straight toward me. "You really handled that badly," he said. I blinked at him. Badly. You should have just paid them. With what money, Rebecca? It's $538,000. You're not broke. Oliver stepped between us slightly. She said she didn't take the loan. Derek shrugged. Maybe she forgot. I didn't forget $500,000. I said. My mother appeared beside us, pale. Rebecca, is this real? No, I said. Derek sighed like the night was exhausting him. Look, he said quietly, just settle it. You're about to get married. Do you really want people digging into your finances? Oliver's voice went cold. Sounds like you want this buried fast. Derek smiled at him. I want my sister's reputation protected. Then he looked at me again. Pay it quietly, he said. End the story. The problem was, the harder he pushed, the less this felt like my story at all. The party ended earlier than anyone had planned. No speeches, no toasts. Just guests finishing their drinks quietly and slipping toward the elevator as if the evening had suddenly run out of air. By the time Oliver and I got back to my apartment, my phone had already started buzzing. Messages from cousins, friends, even 2 people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had heard something. Then Derek called. I stared at the screen for a second before answering. Rebecca, he said right away. Have you thought about what I told you? It's been 2 hours. You should settle this quickly. I already told you. I said, I didn't take that loan. Then make the problem disappear. I sat down on the edge of the couch. The room still smelled faintly of the Thai takeout Oliver had picked up on the way home. That's not how this works. Derek's voice stayed calm, almost patient. $500,000 is cheaper than a scandal, he said. You're about to marry into Oliver's family. Do you really want this turning into a public mess? Oliver leaned against the kitchen counter, listening. He mouthed one word, speaker. I pressed the button. Derek kept talking. People are already asking questions. Just pay it and move on. Oliver spoke up quietly. You seem very confident she owes that money. Derek gave a short laugh. I've seen the paperwork. That's interesting, Oliver said. You've studied it pretty closely. There was a small pause on the line. Then Derek cleared his throat. Look, I'm just trying to help my sister. I stared down at the rug beneath my feet. Help me how I asked. Protect the family. Something about the way he said it didn't sound like concern. It sounded like pressure. And suddenly the conversation felt different. Derek wasn't asking what had happened. He was trying very hard to make sure the story ended one particular way. The next morning, I spread the loan documents across my kitchen table like evidence. My coffee had gone cold. The bitter smell lingered in the air. Oliver watched me flip through the pages. You slept maybe 2 hours, he said. I've had worse nights. The paperwork looked perfect. Too perfect. Loan issued 8 months ago. $538,000. Identity verified. Signature confirmed. Except I knew exactly where I had been 8 months ago. I opened my calendar. Chicago Compliance Conference. I said. Oliver leaned closer. That's out of state. Exactly. According to the agreement. The borrower had signed the documents in person. I kept reading until something else caught my eye. The wire transfer. The money hadn't gone to my bank. It had gone to a business account. I read the name slowly. Midwest Freight Logistics. Oliver frowned. That yours? No. But the name felt familiar. I searched my contacts. Tyler Bennett, Derek's old business partner. Oliver studied my face. You think Derek's involved? I'm starting to. I opened the Illinois Corporate Registry and typed in the company name. The ownership record appeared. Tyler Bennett, managing partner. Then another document tied to the loan authorization. Another name, Derek Lawson, not Rebecca Lawson. I printed everything. Wire records, corporate filings, transaction logs. The stack kept growing until the printer began giving off that warm plastic smell. Oliver sat across from me at the table. You're shaking, he said. I'm angry. Good. I slid one of the pages toward him. Look at the dates. He leaned closer. 3 transfers from the lender. Then another loan. Then a repayment sent to a private investor. Oliver studied the numbers. This isn't one bad decision, he said. No. I opened Derek's old business records on my laptop. His logistics company had collapsed 2 years ago. A few months later, another company appeared. New name, same address, same registered agent, another loan, another investor. Then nothing. Oliver rubbed his jaw slowly. He's been in trouble for a while. Yeah. But why use your name? I already knew the answer. Derek had always been the one my parents bragged about. Your brother's the entrepreneur. Your brother's building something. Meanwhile, I was the careful one. The quiet one. The one who paid her taxes early and never made headlines. I opened another document, an email thread tied to the loan intermediary. The date caught my attention. 4 days before my engagement party. The subject line read, Event location confirmation. Oliver leaned closer. You're kidding. I opened the attachment. A screenshot. The rooftop address. The time of the party. Oliver exhaled slowly. He sent them there. Yeah. Not to fix the debt. Not to solve a mistake. Derek wanted them to confront me in front of everyone, right when my life was about to begin. And suddenly, the money didn't feel like the worst part anymore. 2 days later, we met in a conference room downtown. Plain table, gray carpet, the faint smell of burned office coffee. My lawyer, Marissa Kane, sat beside me with a legal pad. Oliver stood near the window. Across the table were my parents. And Derek. He walked in like this was another annoying meeting he had to sit through. Calvin Rhodes arrived last with his leather folder. Derek leaned back in his chair. So, he said, glancing at me, are you finally ready to fix this? Marissa spoke before I could. My client has gathered documentation regarding the loan. Derek smirked. Documentation doesn't change the signature. I slid the first document across the table. It changes the timeline. Rhodes studied the page. Chicago Compliance Conference, he said. Yes. You're stating you were there when the loan was signed. I was... Derek shrugged. Maybe someone signed for you. Marissa placed another sheet beside the first. Wire transfers, she said. Rhodes examined the numbers. Oliver folded his arms. The money didn't go to Rebecca. Derek's smile tightened. Maybe someone rerouted it. I leaned forward. That someone being who? Derek. He didn't answer. Instead, he gave the same relaxed smile he'd worn at the engagement party. Honestly, Rebecca, he said, you're trying very hard to avoid responsibility. I placed my phone on the table. Not as hard as you did. And that's when the room finally began to shift. No one spoke for a moment. The conference room felt smaller than it had a minute earlier. The air conditioner hummed softly above us. Derek leaned back in his chair, still wearing that easy smile. So, this is the part, he said, glancing at me. Where you accuse me of stealing $500,000, Marissa slid another document across the table. Wire confirmations, she said. Calvin Rhodes examined the page. These transfers were sent to Midwest Freight Logistics. I nodded. Check the ownership filing. Rhodes flipped the page. His eyes paused. Derek Lawson, he read aloud. My mother shifted in her chair. Derek, she whispered. Derek let out a slow breath. Corporate paperwork gets messy. He said, names end up on things. Oliver's voice cut through the room. Your name doesn't accidentally land on $538,000. Derek leaned forward. Rebecca's panicking, he said. She's twisting numbers to escape responsibility. I slid my phone across the table toward Rhodes. Play the recording. Rhodes tapped the screen. Derek's voice filled the room. Clear, calm. Yeah, the engagement party's on the rooftop terrace. 8 o'clock. She'll be there with her whole family. The audio crackled. Then Derek again. They won't miss her. My father slowly folded his hands on the table. Derek, he said quietly. Derek's face went pale. That proves nothing. The recording continued. If they show up publicly, she'll have no choice. She'll pay just to shut it down. Rhodes stopped the audio. Silence settled over the room. My mother whispered, "You sent them there." Derek stared at the table. Finally, he looked at me. "I thought you'd fix it," he said. I met his eyes. "You thought I'd carry it." Rhodes closed the folder. "Our claim will proceed against the correct borrower." And Derek finally understood the room had turned against him. The meeting ended quietly. Rhodes gathered his documents. Marissa closed her notebook. Chairs shifted across the carpet. No one looked at Derek. Rhodes spoke first. "Our legal action will proceed against Mr. Lawson for fraud and identity misrepresentation." Derek didn't argue. He just stared at the table. My mother stood slowly. "Derek," she said, her voice thin. "Tell me this isn't who you've become." He rubbed his forehead. "I never meant for it to go this far." Oliver stepped beside me. "It went exactly where you pushed it," he said. My father still hadn't moved. He was staring at Derek the way someone looks at a stranger who walked into the wrong house. "You used your sister's name," he said quietly. Derek's voice cracked. "I thought she could handle it." My father stood. "That was never your decision." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my father said something I had never heard him say before. "You don't get to stand behind this family anymore." "Derek." Derek looked up, stunned. The silence that followed felt heavier than the accusation. Rhodes left with Marissa to begin the paperwork. My mother sank back into her chair, staring at the floor. I stood there a moment longer. My name was clear now. The debt wasn't mine, but nothing about the room felt lighter. Oliver touched my arm. "Let's go." I nodded. We walked out together, leaving the door closed behind us. 6 months later, we stood beside Lake Michigan. The ceremony was small. Maybe 20 people. No rooftop, no long speeches, just a quiet afternoon with the sound of wind moving across the water. Oliver squeezed my hand. "You ready?" he asked. "I think so," I said. My father stepped beside me. The air carried that cold lake smell, the kind that makes you pull your coat a little tighter. He looked older than he had the last time I saw him. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said quietly. I waited. I was wrong about some things. About Derek. About you. I nodded slowly. "Families get used to certain stories," I said. "Sometimes they stop checking if those stories are still true." He gave a tired smile. I should have looked closer. Across the small aisle, Oliver waited for me, calm and steady. My father rested his hand briefly on my shoulder. "You handled more than anyone should have to," he said. I walked toward Oliver. Life doesn't always give clean endings. Sometimes it just gives you the chance to step forward and choose a different kind of peace. And if you've ever had to rebuild trust in your own family, then you probably understand why that step matters.